Do you include Santa in your book of Yule?
We do. Santa has a big chapter. For me, Santa has always been sort of the real spirit of Yuletide more than anything else. Like you go to the store, what do you see? Santa, 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 Santa everywhere. And Santa is a figure with a really fascinating evolution. The original Santa, of course, he's called Saint Nicholas in a lot of places. And that's a tradition that began in the 12th century in Paris, France. Children were demanding gifts. Nuns were like, how can we make these kids act better? And they said, what if we told them that St. Nicholas was going to bring them a gift if they were good? So they told the children that, then they handed out the presents, and the children did act better. They were less, demanding during that time of year. And this tradition of St. Nicholas as a gift giver sort of began to spread throughout Europe. St. Nicholas is a saint of sort of dubious origins. There's not really a whole lot of information about him. Some people don't think he was real at all. When traditional depictions of St. Nicholas are of a Byzantine saint, so he's got brown hair and a brown beard. He doesn't look anything like Santa Claus. But he gets to the Netherlands and he goes through a transformation. And all of a sudden he's got a white beard and white hair, and he looks completely different. And he looks a lot like the Norse god Odin all of a sudden. And he visits while riding a magical horse. And do you know who else rode a magical horse? Odin rode a magical horse. So it's likely that the idea of St. Nicholas as a gift giver mixed with some ideas about the god Odin. And so then you have this version of St. Nicholas being celebrated in the Netherlands, and it comes over to the United States eventually. And in 1821, there's a book called The Children's Friend that's published, and it talks about a figure now known as Santa Claus, one word instead of St. Nicholas. And he's he drives a sleigh, no horse anymore, but he's got reindeer driving his horse, and he wears a red and a white fur coat instead of the saintly robes of Nicholas. If you see St. Nicholas in the Netherlands, he's pretty regal. This is a more sort of frontiersman Santa, a little more wild. And then after that book, just 2 years later, a poem called A Visit from St. Nicholas, which we know much better as The Night Before Christmas, comes out. And that changes everything. All of a sudden, it's like the most popular poem in the English language. Everybody knows it's The Night Before Christmas and all through the house. Yeah, everybody knows that poem.
Yes.
And it spread the idea of Christmas and Santa Claus all over the United States and then back to Europe, changed his name. In that poem, you see Santa Claus as 2 words as we know them today. You see the establishment of 8 reindeer, which we still have today, those 8 reindeer, and Rudolph, depending on how you feel about him. And, and the tradition kind of evolves from there, too, in the 1850s and 1860s. A political cartoonist named Thomas Nast begins to draw pictures of Santa. He draws even sort of a rougher Santa in some ways. He had grown up in Austria, I think, and his Santa was very much dressed in wild furs. There's a tradition of a figure called the Belsnickel. He showed up on an episode of The Office once, of all crazy places. And the Belsnickel, looks a little more rough and ready. And Nast used that sort of image for some of his Santa. So he's kindly, but he looks like he's ready to go live in the woods. Nast establishes Santa as living at the North Pole and having a crystal ball to check up on children. And, and it just kind of goes from there. The Coca-Cola ads beginning in the 1930s made Santa taller and less rugged looking, just a little more dapper in a way. And but this is 800 years of the evolution of Santa Claus.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
We love Santa. I still believe in Santa.
I still do. And when we do Coven, we invoke Santa. To me, he's the spirit of Yule. I don't know if he's a god or whatever, but there's power and energy.
Exactly.
Absolutely.